Hi, eighth grade. This is my explanation of the social studies eighth grade work from the choice boards. Remember that you have to do a reading assignment every day and you pick one other assignment from that board. So there's two different social studies assignments. I would recommend you do both of those. There's only going to be one thing on the choice board that you're not going to have to do, and all this looks really awesome and doable. Um, you draw something, take a picture of yourself working out, take a picture of yourself taking a walk, doing some fractions, it looks like, and one-step equations. Um, all that stuff looks really doable. But the social studies is going to be really easy because the first thing that is on here, it says, write a paragraph, 4 to 5 sentences, and explain how the government makes rules and laws to protect, help, and serve its citizens. You guys know how a law is passed. We talked about this, and you can look it up. But remember that it has to go through committees. The lawmakers write the laws. It has to go through committee. It has to go through the House. It has to go through the Senate. The president can either sign it or veto it. If he vetoes it, it has to go back and have revisions and so on and so forth. You guys know that the Supreme Court decides whether the law is constitutional. Also, how it helps and serves its citizens. You guys know how laws help us, right? That's going to be common sense, what you think kind of thing, because you could come up with any example. You could come up with how traffic laws protect us, how laws against murder possibly protect us. This is easy stuff, guys, because it's just showing that you guys know the basics of laws and the government. The second one is make a timeline, starting with the colonial era, which would be in the 1600s when people started settling and building and setting up governments in this country, and explain how women's rights have evolved over time in the United States. So, that's simple too. Even though we haven't really had any particular lessons on this, we talk about this in class all the time. It comes up all the time. So think about what women's roles and rights were when we were first trying to develop this country. And women, of course, were not allowed to work outside of the home. They weren't allowed to own land. They weren't allowed to vote. And then once they created the Constitution, we got our independence, and we created the Constitution. Women still weren't given rights. But as we started moving westward, and I know you guys remember this, single women that would go out west and set up homesteads and things like that, they had more rights, and some states even gave them the right to vote, even though it wasn't a federal law. They were able to hold down jobs and have their own homes and own their own land, so that was a big switch for women. And then things got better when we started industrializing. We haven't gone over this yet, unfortunately, but there was a time in the late 1800s when teacher colleges were set up for women so that they could be teachers, which I realize is not them being anything they want, but that was a big step in the right direction, letting women work outside the home and educate people. And then as the 1900s progressed, in 1920, so 100 years ago, women finally got the constitutional right to vote, which was the 19th Amendment. So you could add that in there. And then you could also go on a little further and show how women were still expected to stay home with the kids and take care of the house and be kind of secondary. But as time has gone on, there was a women's liberation movement that came about. I think it started maybe in the 60s. It probably started a little earlier than that, but it really took hold in the 60s when the civil rights movement was going on for the African Americans, of course. And women started gaining more rights, more respect. Up into like the 80s and 90s, we started seeing a lot more women doctors. And now, we have more women in college than we do men, which that's a whole other set of problems. I think that it needs to be about equal. But women are getting more and more rights. But what you all might not know is that women still don't overall, and the national average, women don't make as much as men for doing the same job. So we're still not exactly where we need to be, but where we've come from at the beginning of the colonial era of our country and that timeline that moves on, we have made excellent strides. So you could put all that in there. It only needs to be about a paragraph, or you could make an actual timeline and put, maybe a sentence for each part of it. And it doesn't have to be perfect years. It could just be, you could start it at 1600 and end it at 2020 and just put things as you go along. You guys know westward expansion was in the early to mid 1800s. Industrialization was the late 1800s. The women got right to vote in 1920. So right there is some stuff for your timeline. So that should make it pretty easy, right? Please let me know if you need any help with anything. Like if you need help with something, if you need to ask somebody, one of the other teachers, a question and you're not really, maybe you don't exactly know how to contact them, or you would rather ask me, I can ask them. So just let me know anything that you need. If you just need to say hi, anything. I love you all, and I'll see you hopefully on April 6th. And if not, then I'll see you digitally. See you later. Love you.